The Task 1, Academic Writing Exercise, is in the form of a 150-word report. You may be asked to report on a line graph, bar chart, table, pie chart, map, or process diagram. Sometimes, the question may combine these elements. For example, a line graph with a pie chart, or multiple graphs, or tables presented together. The question will ask you to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. The technique you need to develop to efficiently tackle the Task 1 academic writing test is to be able to select the important parts of the figure, or figures, presented, and also, to be able to see general trends, in a graphical diagram. This might sound complicated, but don't worry. It's a skill that can be developed, with only a little bit of practice. Let's take a look at 5 sample Task 1 academic questions. Starting with a line graph. This is an example of a Task 1 academic writing line graph question. The graph shows the quantities of goods transported in the UK between 1974 and 2002 by 4 different modes of transport. The task description is always the same for the Task 1 academic writing questions. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. Take a look at the graph. Read the title. Look at the scales and units on the Y and X axes. Read the key at the top right corner. This is all important information, which should be included in the first paragraph of your report. Next, take a pen and highlight the main features directly on the question paper. For this question, I would highlight the general trend. Road, water and pipeline transport all increased, while transport by rail ended at the same level it started at, 40 million tons. Transport by road is highest, and pipeline transport is the lowest. Between the years 1974 to 1978, water and rail transport were about equal, at 40 million tons per year. In the year 1978, water transport then rose quite sharply, to 58 million tons in 1980, while goods transported by rail fell to 30 million tons by the year 1984. Transport of goods by road rose most steeply between the years 1994 and 1998, from 80 million tons to about 98 million tons, before tailing off. You must always mention some figures with units in a Task 1 AC question, if numerical information is included in the figure. And that's about all for this question. This is a Task 1 academic writing table question. The table shows data on consumer spending on different items in 5 different countries in the year 2002. The main key skill in Task 1 report writing is to be able to select key features. So, let's take a look at what stands out. Mark these points on the question paper before you start writing. First, let's highlight the highest and lowest for each category. Turkey spends more than twice the amount on food and drinks and tobacco than Sweden, at 32.14% and 15.77%, respectively. The highest expenditure on clothing and footwear is Italy, with 9.0%, and the lowest is Sweden, with 5.4%. Turkey spends 4.35% on leisure and education, while Spain only spends 1.98%. The nations of Ireland, Spain, and Turkey have very similar spending on clothing and footwear, at about 6.5% of their annual expenditure. Having highlighted these main features, you can now begin writing. Start your response by paraphrasing the title, and listing the 5 countries, and the 3 categories, shown in the table. Follow that by reporting your highlighted features in a logical sequence. And that's it. Piece of cake. This is a Task 1 pie chart question. In this example, you have 3 pie charts, showing a breakdown of annual budget spending by a school over a 20-year period. As always, your task is to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. So, let's follow the process. First of all, we'll paraphrase the question and add some details. Something along the lines of: the figure shows 3 pie charts, detailing a British school's budget spending in the 5 areas of insurance, teachers' salaries, furniture and equipment, resources, and other salaries, over a period of 2 decades, from 1981 to 2001. Next, we'll give a short overview of each category. Over the test period, spending on insurance increased. Teachers' salaries rose and then fell. Furniture and equipment spending fell and then rose again. Spending on resources rose and then fell. And spending on other salaries decreased. Finally, we'll select a few details to report. With numbers, don't forget. The insurance category takes up the smallest portion of the chart, but it increased by a factor of 4 over the test period, from just 2% up to 8%. Teachers' salaries take up the largest portion of all spending, going from 40% in 1981, rising to 50% in 1991, and finishing at 45% in 2001. Spending on furniture and equipment saw the biggest fluctuation, going from 15% all the way down to 5%, and then climbing again drastically, up to 23%, at the end of the time period. And that is all that's needed. Not a very interesting or challenging question, this one. Whoever wrote it clearly wasn't feeling too inspired the day they came up with this little number. Remember to always paraphrase the question for the introduction. Don't copy it directly. If you do copy it directly, the words will be subtracted from your final word count. And do not try to offer any kind of analysis or opinion on the data. That is not what Task 1 is about. This is a Task 1 process diagram question. It is a little different to a numerical figure question, in that there is less selection of key features necessary. You just need to explain the process in a clear, logical manner, making good use of linking phrases and other cohesive devices. Here is my attempt at this Task 1 process diagram question. For the introduction, we will still use the information provided in the question, in paraphrased form, of course. The two diagrams show the steps and machinery used in the production of cement, and how cement is then used in the process of concrete production for the purpose of building construction. Next, we'll describe the process of cement production. Like so. Firstly, limestone and clay are fed through a crusher before the two raw materials are combined together in a mixer. The resulting powder then flows into a rotating heater, where it is heated up and rotated before being passed through a final stage, where it is ground into fine cement powder. Lastly, the finished product is sealed in heavy-duty, rectangular bags. Then, concrete production. The production of concrete is achieved by mixing four ingredients together in a concrete mixer. The ingredients needed are gravel, at a proportion of 50%, sand, at a proportion of 25%, 15% cement, and, lastly, 10% water. The amalgamation is then rotated in a clockwise direction to produce the final product. Concrete. There isn't really much that needs to be compared here, in my opinion, but just to be safe, and to make up the word count a little, I'll add this last sentence. In conclusion, the first process requires more machinery and makes use of high temperature, whereas the second process utilizes water. Job done. Nothing more to say here. The last task 1, academic writing, example question we'll look at is a map question. Here it is. Questions like this come up from time to time. The task description is still the same as always. As with the previous process diagram question, there's not a lot of numerical information to contend with, and not too many relevant features for comparison either. Your task then, in this case, is less selective and more descriptive. Report what you are looking at in a clear, logical manner. Think of it like taking a photograph of what you can see, but in writing. First paragraph. Paraphrase the information provided in the question, and provide a general description and overview of all the features shown in the diagram. A little something like this. The map shows 2 potential sites for the location of a new supermarket in a town of 65,000 residents, named Galston. The map gives details of the location and proportionate size of countryside, town centre, housing, and industrial areas. 3 main roads and a railway line are also depicted. Then, a bit more descriptive detail. The town centre is roughly in the middle, surrounded by housing, and there are also 2 small industrial areas, situated to the north and south. Okay. We're halfway there already. Next, we'll add a penultimate paragraph, detailing the 3 surrounding towns and their location relative to Galston. Here, we should be able to get in a few numbers and comparisons. The closest town to Galston is Hindon, which sits 12 kilometers to the northwest. Hindon also has the smallest population of the nearby towns, with a population of only 10,000 people. 16 kilometers to the southwest lies Branston, with a population of 15,000 individuals. And the last, and largest, of the satellite towns, is Cranston, to the southeast, with a population almost half the size of Galston, 29,000 people. And the final touch, to take us past the 150-word mark. The first proposed location for the new supermarket, S1, is on the outer edge of the suburbs, by the road heading out of town to Hindon. And the second proposed location, S2, is slap bang in the town centre. 173 words. Sweet. So, in a nutshell, that is how you should go about tackling the task 1, academic writing questions. Just do as the question asks you to do. Nothing more, and nothing less. Summarize the information. Select and report the main features. And make comparisons where relevant. For an overview of exactly how your Task 1 report will be assessed, and some tips on how to make sure you fulfill all of the task criteria for this part of the test, go to the Writing Task 1 section of the Inside IELTS assessment page. For more practice writing Task 1 questions, go to the Materials page. See you there.